Yes, we put it on YouTube. Here we go. I got it, Dr. B.
Trying to get you in here, Don.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, Dr. B, I love that music, especially on a slow, rainy day.
Ah, yes. Old Blue Eyes.
Old Blue Eyes.
And what a morning for it, right?
Indeed.
A little blue eyes and a hot cup of coffee and a rainy day.
And a rainy day. Good morning, folks. You are with On Point with JP and Dr. B. And again, we want to send out a big warning there. Be careful on your commute in. The roads are not extremely safe. There's a lot of water on the roads. And I know that when I was driving in, I was sliding around a little bit when I got up to about 65, 70 miles an hour. Dr. B was in the same boat. No pun intended, of course, as I was sliding around out there. And then there's some trees down. I almost hit one. I kind of brazed one on the side of the car this morning. And then we've already had the tornado warnings going off and jumping in tornado shelters. And so watch out for the road and the road conditions this morning, as it may be a little bit treacherous on your commute in. Well, I'm excited. We have started a new segment called Real People, Real Lives, or Real Stories. And what's exciting about it is that we're out there looking for folks who are just regular folks who have really overcome quite a bit and done some amazing things with their abilities. And so we want to welcome to our show Don Hebbard, Dr. Don Hebbard. Don, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
And so, Dr. B, tell us about Dr. Don Hebbard.
Well, Don is a professor of counseling, human behavior, and development at Amberton University. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist with 34 years of experience, which is really amazing as he's only 30. But he's a clinical fellow in the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy and has a private practice in Dallas. Don has opened counseling centers and graduate programs and family institutes in Dallas, Atlanta, and Oklahoma City. He travels nationally and is a popular speaker conducting seminars including Marriage University and Spiraling Up, 9 Principles of Positive Change. As an adoptee himself, he has special interest in adoption and attachment in the family. I've known Don for a number of years, and really a very successful, just a man who is well-rounded. And one of the things that's not on your list, but I'm going to say it anyway, you're a drummer also, and a very good one at that. So Don, welcome to our show. And one of the special interests that you have, of course, is in the area of adoption. Tell us a little bit, Don, about history. Bring us what happened.
Great. Well, yes, about 37, my kids were getting a little older. I wanted to know more about my background, and so I started researching. My dad came to America. He was a Greek immigrant, first generation. Nicholas Economou, along with his 2 brothers, Fotis and Costas. They came from Tripoli, Greece, over to Burlington, Vermont, and started a dairy farm and cheese factory. And he wasn't much of a dairy farmer, so he hired a consultant to help him run that thing. And the consultant had a daughter, and they had an affair. He was 45, my birth mother was 25, and she was already married, so they put me up for adoption. And I spent about the first year of my life in foster care.
And was that in Vermont then, where you were born?
It was. He had a large dairy farm right outside of Burlington, which is a big 18-hole golf course today. And,
wow.
Yeah.
So, and you've written a book about your life, right?
Yes, I have. The Little Drummer Boy, Living the Legacy of Adoption, because I wanted to look at the effects of lack of attachment and adoption on a person's life.
So you say you spent the first year in foster care, and at what age were you adopted?
I was about 10 months, almost a year old. There weren't families in Vermont adopting, and so I tell people I was traded as a free agent to Connecticut for 3 future draft choices.
Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. And then how did you get from the east to here?
Yes, we lived in West Hartford, my adopted family, the Hebbard family. Dad was a CPA. Mom was a homemaker. I had an older adopted sister, and then about age 11 we moved. Actually, he was transferred down here to Dallas, and so we moved down here, and then I was raised in 2 towns, Hartford and Dallas.
When did you first become aware that you were adopted?
You know, my parents always told me that I was adopted. They told both my sister, who's not my biological sister, they told both of us from the get-go we were adopted. In those days, the adoption files were closed. Of course, we didn't know anything other than my mother was French and my dad was Greek. And in those days, everything we thought was just fine. We didn't know anything about attachment or problems of abandonment. We just assumed everything would be okay with kids.
And when do you think that really hit you? The attachment or lack thereof and the feelings of abandonment. At what age did you become aware of that, do you think, as you look back?
Yeah, looking back, for me, the relating to the abandonment came out in achievement. I was always told I was special. I was always told I needed to, you know, I saw my sister doing some other things that were very rebellious. And so I wanted to achieve and do very, very well. And so I'd go out and, you know, make good grades and be on every team and go to graduate school and get multiple degrees. And just, I describe it as having an invisible hand on my back, just pushing me forward all the time. And I think when I finally got tired of that drive to achieve was when I decided I needed to start doing some core work.
And at what age did that happen?
About 37.
About 37.
Yeah.
So it was a while to kind of put all that together and say, you know, there's some things in my life that just didn't seem right when I was growing up.
Yes.
Do you still have contact with your adoptive parents?
My father, my birth father, Nicholas Economou, was deceased by the time I found him, but I've had a relationship for over 20 years with Jean McEntee, who's my birth mother, and we have a great relationship.
And is she still out in the Northeast?
She is. She stayed in Burlington. She actually worked in the hospital where I was born, and delightful lady, has made a good life for herself.
Well, I know that in your book you talk a little bit about some anger that developed, and that's a result of the attachment or lack thereof?
It is. One of the things we've learned through the years as therapy has progressed, and you and I are both psychotherapists, we know that if a baby or a young child doesn't attach, that many times there's a core rage that occurs. And for me, that anger would be out of proportion to the events happening. Sometimes something very minor would spark anger that was way too intense.
And how did that cause you problems in your work life or relationships? Is that where you showed up most?
Yes, you know, in my work life, I'd be very professional, everything would be just fine. And then every once in a while, the lid would just come off and something would tick me off, and you get this out of proportion response that people would kind of cock their head and go, what was that all about?
And sometimes you wondered yourself what it was about, correct?
Oh, absolutely, which was part of the reason that I went into therapy myself and thought I need to do some work on this.
So Don, help our audience understand, what do you mean when you're talking about attachment?
Well, when a baby's born, it has that core relationship with the birth mother, and that's what causes it to feel a sense of security, a sense of belonging, a sense that the world is a safe place. If anything occurs in the first couple of years that interrupts that, sickness or, in my case, just being removed from the birth mother, there's an inner sense of core abandonment. And that wound is pre-verbal. We carry it around, but we can't even articulate it because we didn't have language for it.
Yeah, you didn't know what it was. You just knew something was missing, that proverbial hole in the heart, as they say, that was there. And, okay, our producer has a question.
You bet. Well, it took a lot of work. It's a great question because it is a question of feeling worthwhile and lovable. And one of the things we have to do is, what I had to do in therapy was to go in and actually reparent myself. I had to go in and learn that my worth didn't come from other people. It came from within myself. It was something that I was going to have to learn to accept myself, for me to lower some of the standards that I had, learn to relax a little bit, and then learn to accept other people's love and approval and realize they really do care about me.
So they weren't just saying it to try to make you feel good; they really meant it. And
Yeah.
but that's a really good question. So you, like Sharavius, also felt a little bit unworthy at times, yes?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I would come into, and I talk to a lot of adopted kids and kids in foster care as well, and one of the things that they'll say is every time we come into a situation, we feel like we're always an outsider. We don't ever feel like we belong. We're never a part of the group, even though the group really is accepting us. And they're saying, yeah, you're loved, you're wanted. We just don't feel that.
Have you had a special counseling work with people who are adopted? Have you made that a specialty, kind of? Or?
Yes, in addition to the book that I've written, I've actually, in my practice here in Dallas, I work with a team called MindSpeak Institute there in White Rock, and we work with adopted adults and kids and teens that specialize in this area.
All right. Well, I understand we're coming towards a break, and Dr. Don Hebbard will be with us when we return. So stay with us as we discuss more with Don about attachment and adoption and his life story. Sharavius, take us to the break.
Wow.
Good. Good. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry I couldn't hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I cleared us out anyways.
Pardon?
We're good now.
Yeah.
I had to actually go into photo storage and get rid of those videos.
Oh.
9.7 gigs.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Well, it's like you can't leave me.
Rushing
If I
is
leave you-
never a good.
It's like you can't leave
Rushing
me
in
if I
is never a
leave you.
good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finding
Exactly.
where my glasses are. I can't find my
I get that a
file.
lot with my students.
You run into this all
Having
the
all
time.
kinds of
Yeah.
issues this morning.
It's epidemic out.
But I did go to bed last night at
It
about
really
8:20.
is.
Good for
I was
you.
in bed asleep.
And they
I
experience
didn't get
abandonment
into
for more
mine.
than just adoption.
I was tired.
They can be in a blended family.
My
and
tooth,
not feel like they fit
she was
in.
able to
Yeah,
save
see,
the
that's why I
tooth,
kind of
thank
struggle
God.
with my own
No,
family.
good.
Yeah,
It
my
hurt.
daughter,
3
who lives
hours
with me,
each
kind of
trip.
goes through that a lot because she doesn't feel the attachment to her biological mother.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any way you want me to go in the next section?
We can just keep rolling and everything. It's easy to talk about.
I'm going to ask you about what you would say to parents who are considering adoption.
Okay.
And some questions about that.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah. Yeah.
Looks, yeah, we're still recording.
Yes,
so
oh yeah,
that's
we're on.
good.
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
on. It was a memory issue. We ran out of memory.
Yes. You want Don? Yes.
Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Can I talk? Yeah. Well, the thing I was going to say was, when I had my two kids, it was some of the best healing I could do because it gave me, it was like they were my first family. I saw somebody who was biologically related to me.
How long do you
We had a love that was just unconditional, and I really healed through my two kids.
Where are we
We're at 6:30.
So don't be afraid of that.
at? We can take
You may be a great dad.
You
You
Al
just,
last segment.
a great dad's in there.
I don't know if you can pick up those.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll jump in and ask some questions too. Do you want to continue with some questions, or do you want me to jump in?
Pardon?
Do you want to continue with some
Yeah,
questions, or do you want me to jump
I'll
in?
go with a couple more questions and then jump in.
Okay.
Are we doing Lori today?
Oh, we can do that. Hey, Sharavius, can you queue up the choice as always is yours to come right back with? Okay, I'll introduce it. So, Al, I'm going to ask you several questions.